This is a lab problem from section 1.6, number 3. Use shells to find the volume bounded by these curves and the specified axis. So we got y is equal to x squared and x is equal to y squared. So that's a parabola and a square root function that intersect at 0, 0 and at 1, 1. We want to rotate this about the horizontal line y is equal to negative 6. So we got y is equal to negative 6 down here. And then it says rotating the horizontal strip around. This is the horizontal strip being rotated around. Y is equal to negative 6 creates a cylinder with the following attributes. So the radius is from the axis of rotation, which is y is equal to negative 6 to this value. This is a y value. So this is a y value minus the placement of this is negative 6. So technically I'd like to think of that as y minus negative 6. If you look at that as just a geometry problem, we have a distance from this line to the x-axis as 6 and then another y value. So this is the same thing as 6 plus y, or y plus 6. Now the height is going to be the difference between these two graphs, and if you tilt your head to the right, the larger graph is going to be the parabola, y is equal to x squared. Now we want this in terms of y, so if we solve for x there, we're going to get the square root of y. So it's square root of y. That's the square root of y minus, and then here you have x is equal to y squared, so that's just going to be y squared. Okay, so those are our radius and heights that we'll use for our cylindrical shell. So the curves intersect at the origin and at the point 1, 1. We discussed that earlier. So that'll help us figure out the limits. We're going to be integrating with respect to y, so y is going to move from 0 to 1. And then inside we have 2 pi times the radius, the radial distance, which is y plus 6, times the height, which was square root of y minus y squared. And then once we have that, we're going to FOIL it out. So we have the 2 pi that can be moved outside. We're integrating from 0 to 1. And then let's FOIL this out. So we have y times the square root of y. So let's use, we're going to need to integrate this. So let's use y to the 1/2 times y to the first. So y to the 3/2 power. That's the first terms. The outer term is going to be y times y squared. So that's a plus y cubed. The inner term is 6 times the square root of y. So plus 6 times y to the 1/2 power. And then the last term is 6y squared. And so this is our FOILed out, now easier to integrate. All right, so we did something wrong. We have y, the outer term is y cubed, the inner term is 6y to the 1/2, and then the last term, there's a minus sign here, sorry about that. So anything that had to do with that distribution should have been a negative. And so that would be the second term and the last term. Okay, let's try that again. So now we're good. Now we integrate. The 2 pi is still sitting outside. We have y to the 3/2 power. You add 1, you get y to the 5/2. And then we're dividing this by 5/2. That's the same thing as multiplying by, 2/5. we have minus y. You add 1 to the power, and then you divide by that same power. This is a plus. We have 6y to the add 1 to the power, and divide by that. And then a minus 6y to the third power, and divide by 3. So now we're going to put in 1. So when we put 1 in, we're going to get the reciprocal of 5/2 is 2/5 minus, we put in 1, we're just going to get 1/4 plus, we have 6 times 1 times the reciprocal of 3/2, so that's 2/3. So 6 times 2/3, 6 times 2/3. Well, the 6's and the 3's cancel, and that's going to leave us with a 2, so that's a 4. And then 6/3 times 1, that's just going to be 2. So I'm sure you can simplify this, but I'm going to go ahead and submit. No, it didn't take it. So let's double check everything. 5/2. So this part's correct. We did our integral correctly. 5/2, 1/4. 6 times 2/3. The 6 and the 3 cancel. That would leave a 2, and that would be a 2 in the numerator. Oh, so that's just a 2 in the numerator. And so this should have been a 2. And 2 minus 2 is 0, so let's go ahead and get rid of that. Let's try this to see if it would take the answer. Still not right. Let's do one more check. We got 5/2 reciprocal, that's 2/5 minus 1/4. I think maybe I'm having a hard time with multiplying 6 times 2/3. Minus 6 divided by 3 is 2. So 6 divided by 2/3, that'd be a 2, and this is a 1. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 minus 2 is 2. I believe this should work. Oh, sorry. We forgot to put the 2 pi in front. So that's what was happening with us. Again, I'm not going to bother simplifying here. Ha, there it goes. So that simplifies to 43 pi over 10 if you were to simplify it. But we finally got our answer. Okay, I hope that helps.